Shalom to you, my good friends. Shabbat Zachor. I would like to go back to the parashat mishpatim to explain certain points in this parasha, because there is a great misunderstanding particularly about this mitzvah of ayin tahat ayin, shin tahat shin, yad tahat yad, regel tahat regel, etc., etc. The interpretation of this pasuk has led many to criticize the Torah Shalom. But before I go into it, I have first of all to explain the meaning of ayin tahat ayin. It is impossible to fulfill the mitzvah of the Torah as we understand it. Ayin tahat, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hand for a hand. It's impossible. That has somebody who has broken an arm, blinded a person in his eyes, he should be given the same punishment. Because it is impossible for us to do that. The Bible mentions some arguments. Suppose a person hates his friend and he is blinded in a certain way, the third of his eyesight. How can you on earth punish the aggressor by the same punishment, taking off the third of his eyesight? It's impossible. So the meaning of ayin tahat ayin means something else altogether different. It's the law of retaliation. In French you call la loi du talion. It is important that what the Torah is telling us here, ayin tahat ayin, the meaning is that whenever you judge want to punish somebody for the crime he has committed, make sure that the crime goes together with the severity. The punishment goes together with the severity of the claim, of the crime. For example, in the olden days in England, it was customary that whoever stole something which is valued 5 shillings was given death penalty. Now this death penalty for having stolen 5 shillings is not the ayin tahat ayin. Make sure that the punishment you give, which is in your case, in the olden days, the punishment was death penalty, does not go together in parity with the 5 shillings you have stolen. It doesn't go together. By the way, in the olden days they used to evaluate something which they thought was 5 shillings. The jury was to evaluate 4 shillings and 11 pence. That was the money, value of the money of those days. 4 shillings, 3 shillings, but never 5 shillings, in order not to make him liable to death penalty. So, ayin tahat ayin means to make sure that the punishment goes together with the severity of the crime. Because he stole something, you put him to prison for all his life. It doesn't go. So the learning that all the world has learned up today is that make sure that the severity of the crime goes together in parity with the punishment. Not to give, like you say, lifetime prison because of he stole something, not impossible. So the learning, most important learning of this ayin tahat ayin means that make sure that the punishment goes together with the severity of the crime. And this is something which the whole world has learned. La loi du talion, the law of the retaliation goes together with the punishment. And this is an important lesson, which many just didn't know. They learned it from the Torah, ayin tahat ayin. Now, literally, when you come to see what punishment is, ayin tahat ayin, according to the Torah, is that a person has blinded an eye, has to pay 5 compensations. Nezek, Ripuy, Sar, Shevet, and Boshet. 5 compensations. Not eye for eye, an eye for an eye. The eye for an eye means you deserve. You took the eye of your friend, you broke the arm, you deserve your arm to be broken. Your eye to be taken out of Hazrat Shalom. But it is impossible in a practical manner that any judge will judge that Ayin Tahat Ayin literally. So there are 2 things, 2 very important things. That Ayin Tahat Ayin does not mean little sense, but it means that the deserving the punishment, and at the same time that the punishment should go in parity with the severity of the crime. And this Nezek, he has to pay the value of the eye. Now, we won't go into it. All these details are in the parashat, in Perek HaHovel, Masechet Baba Kama. The value of the eye, the pain that he has suffered, the shame that he has to go without an eye, to pay for the time that, to pay for the medication that he did, doctors and medication, Ripuy, and then Shevet. The time he can't, but that he is in hospital, he can't bring any parashat to his family, the aggressor has to pay for it. So there's the 5 compensation: Nezek, the damage, the tsar, the pain, the boshet, the shame, and the ripuy, doctors to cure him, and Shevet, the time wasted in hospital that he can't make a living, you have to pay. These are the 5 compensations that in the Torah a person has to give for a ayin, for a regel, for a yad. The ayin tahat ayin, Torah says, as he said, means you deserve your arm to be broken. You deserve your eye to be blinded because but it's impossible. And the second and most important law that we learn from the Ayin Tahat Ayin is the law of retaliation, which means Ayin Tahat Ayin. If he blinded an eye, punish him with the eye, a parity, not the tooth and an eye for an eye alone. It means an eye for an eye. That's the most important halakha that we learn. The whole world needs that. They didn't know. They thought that the person has committed a crime, punish him. No, you ought to punish him in a punishment which goes in parity with the severity of the crime. This is the law of retaliation, which is learned, and the world has not learned it fully. In many cases, even now today, the punishment doesn't go in parity with the severity of the crime. Church hasn't learned this, but this is the learning, this is the study of the Torah, that Ayin Tahat Ayin means the retaliation, the law of retaliation, one goes in parity with the other. Baruch Hashem, Shnatan Torah Emet, Baruch Hashem, that He gave us a Torah of truth, a Torah of Rachamim, Amen. Shabbat Shalom.